Appreciate your time. I'm keen for your thoughts on Mr Holmes à Court's address. What did you make of his denial that the independents he's backing are anything but independent? As someone facing one of these candidates, do you approach them as independents, or do you see them as part of a coordinated political party because of the similar campaigns, the same financial backers? Because as Simon Holmes à Court pointed out, there's no hierarchy, no leader, no actual coordinated policy platforms, he said. Instead, he was arguing they simply share the same values and just informally swap notes.
Well, I ask you, if that's the case, why was he out there as the spokesperson for these independents today? I mean, you can't on the one hand say that they're all independents, but on the other speak on them and talk about what they all have in common and how they're all coordinating and everything else. I mean, if it looks like a political party, if it acts like a political party, if it feels like a political party, I'd suggest it is a political party. And what we've got here is candidates running on all the same platforms, all with Climate 200 backing, all against government candidates, all even in the same coloured T-shirts. I mean, come on, let's level with the public and say this is a political party, this is our platform, and have a sophisticated conversation. But this sort of attempt to always pretend that they're, as he used this David and Goliath terminology, if you want to have a look at who's spending the most money on political advertising in Australia right now, on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram, it's Climate 200. They're outspending anyone. They're the biggest political advertisers out there right now. So to try and pretend they're a small disruptive startup is a nonsense.
We heard Simon Holmes à Court challenge the major parties to deliver root and branch reform of political donations law in time for the next election. Do you agree that we need that root and branch reform of political donations law? And is there any sense that that could be achieved before the next election, or is that just a pipe dream?
Well, he sounded a bit like St Augustine, give me chastity, but just not yet. I mean, he said that he would not be complying to any higher standards, and in fact he would continue to exploit features of the current donation system, as he's doing and as Zali Steggall has been revealed to be doing, because seemingly to him the means justifies the ends. And he's offered that when he got to Parliament, or when the independents control the balance of power, well, they'll reform this then. I'm certainly open to discussing these things, but we need to have the major parties and the independents on board, and let's have it in a constructive conversation, not someone who's exploiting the current system but pretending to be holier than thou in doing so.
How worried are you about Allegra Spender's campaign for Wentworth? Is she a serious threat to you?
Well, look, I'm not going to turn myself into a political commentator, but I would say I never take my electorate for granted, and they will take a decision, as they always do, in their own best interest. I think I've shown that I've got a good track record as a member for Wentworth, standing up for my community in Canberra, articulating their views and delivering on important local initiatives and local support to jobs and small business and whatnot. But ultimately, I'd never take my voters for granted. I don't think any member of Parliament would, and I'll respect whatever choice they make.
Last week you joined 4 other Liberal MPs across the floor to strengthen protections for gay and transgender students in the religious discrimination bills. That was clearly an act of conscience for you, but in campaigning, is that also something that you had your eye on, that you could hold that up as proof that, as the member for Wentworth, you can have a voice separate to that of the Liberal Party when you deem it's necessary?
Well, what I had in mind was a commitment I made to the electorate when I first stood for election in 2018, that I would stand up for transgender and gay children and seek to prevent discrimination against them. So I had in my mind that commitment I made to the electorate, and last week I was able to honour that commitment. And like most MPs, I take my commitments to the electorate very seriously, and I always do my utmost to honour them. And I hope people of Wentworth know that, when I make them a promise, I will fulfil it.
Dave Sharma, there are going to be plenty of fascinating battles coming up in terms of these independent candidates against sitting Liberal MPs like yourself. We appreciate you joining us with your thoughts after that Simon Holmes à Court address. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Ash.